My mom sent a text. "You're banned from Thanksgiving until you apologize, idiot." No phone call, no context, just one cruel line flashing on my screen. So I smiled, closed my wallet on their holiday, and made plans of my own. 3 days later, while they carved turkey without me, the bills I'd stopped covering hit hard. My phone lit up. 87 missed calls. And that was only the beginning. Before I tell you everything, tap like and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Have you ever been treated like the outsider in your own family? When people say family, they imagine warmth and laughter, a place that welcomes you home no matter what. Mine looked different. On the surface, we seemed fine. Holiday photos, matching sweaters, posed smiles around the table. Dad slicing turkey while Mom held the serving spoon like a crown. But beneath those smiles ran a current I couldn't ignore. Favoritism, manipulation, and a hush anytime I asked for the smallest measure of respect. I'm Madison Cole, 27, the quiet one, the one who kept the bills balanced and the lights on even when no one noticed. I wasn't rich or flashy, but I had what nobody else in my family seemed to have: discipline. I could make a late notice disappear before the power company even thought about cutting service. When Dad had surgery last year, insurance covered part, not all. I stepped in, paid the remainder, and it was like a switch flipped. Suddenly, I wasn't a daughter. I was a safety net. The family phone plan, on me. The internet, on me. A temporary copay, on me. Month after month, they leaned harder, and I kept saying yes, believing that was what love meant. Meanwhile, my cousin Dylan, the so-called family star, played by different rules. He was the golden boy who could do no wrong. Each time he bragged about a new sales bonus or another night out, I was the one quietly paying the electric bill they'd forgotten again. While he posted perfect dinners, I covered groceries my parents wouldn't admit they couldn't afford. Mom bragged about Dylan's success like it was hers, and I became the budget cop, the one who made everything complicated. There were moments I let myself believe it could change, like when Mom baked her apple pie and the smell filled the house, or when Dad dozed off in front of the TV with the football murmuring low. I'd glance at the old mantle photo, me in braces, Dylan grinning without a care, and wonder if one day we'd sit at the same table without me being the punchline. But deep down I knew better. The favoritism wasn't accidental. It was a pattern. When Dylan needed money, I was expected to provide. When I spoke up, I was told to relax and stop making drama. That was my role. Unseen, unheard, and always paying the price. So when Mom's text banned me from Thanksgiving, it wasn't out of nowhere. It was the final nail in a coffin they'd been building for years. The first crack showed up in the group chat, a simple Thanksgiving head count. Names scrolled like a guest list to a party I'd helped fund, and mine never appeared. I waited, then finally typed, "Did you forget me?" The dots blinked. Dylan replied, "Limited seating, try Christmas, if you behave." My stomach dropped, not because of the words, but because nobody objected. Mom didn't correct him. Dad said nothing. Aunts and uncles stayed silent, like silence was permission. I called Mom. Clinking dishes and laughter spilled through the speaker like the party had already started without me. "You're not invited until you apologize to Dylan for ruining his promotion dinner," she said, flat, like reading a rule book. "By ruining, do you mean asking why he keeps borrowing rent while bragging about his checks?" I shot back. In the background, Uncle Ray chimed in, mocking. "There she goes again, budget cop." Laughter followed. Everyone but me. Heat crawled up my chest. "You want less drama? Then stop using my debit card on autopay," I said, steady but sharp. Silence fell. A door slammed somewhere on their end, like they thought I was bluffing. Then the call dropped. 10 minutes later, Aunt Patrice texted, "Don't make this about money. Family comes first." Then she posted a gratitude photo without me. Long table, glowing candles. Everyone tagged but me. On Thanksgiving, my feed filled with pie and turkey captions. Best family ever. Another buzz. From Mom. "We saved you a plate. Porch pickup." Like I was a delivery driver, not her daughter. I drove by later. A foil-wrapped plate sat on the porch. A neighbor's cat sniffed it and pawed the corner. I left it there on purpose. Black Friday morning, I tried to keep the day normal. I went to the bakery for coffee and a bagel. Aunt Patrice happened to be there, waving me forward like I was a problem to manage. She told the cashier, "She's sensitive about success. Keep the small talk short." The cashier's smile collapsed. The woman behind me muttered, "Ouch." The whole shop felt colder. I walked out without my bagel and sat in the car until the defroster cleared the fog off the windshield. That afternoon, Dylan called as if nothing had happened. "Front me $600 for my girlfriend's gift. I'll Venmo Friday." Then, "We'd all feel better if you just said sorry and stopped being difficult." I said nothing. He filled the silence. You know, family takes care of each other. Sitting in my car, I finally saw it clearly. Family wasn't taking care of each other. I was taking care of them. The more I gave, the more invisible I became. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a plan. By Saturday, the noise inside me hardened into a decision. At my kitchen table, phone buzzing with messages I ignored, I opened my notes app and wrote it all down. Dates, amounts, reasons, tires for Dad's truck, meds after surgery, the family phone plan nobody wanted to manage, the internet that somehow kept getting paid, groceries, co-pays, last-minute deposits before banks closed. As I scrolled through months of transactions, my chest ached. None of it was one time, even when they swore it was. Every just until next month became permanent. Every emergency became my responsibility. My yes had turned into the floor they walked on. At the top, I typed a line. What they don't know is about to save me. The next morning, I met Grace, my mentor from work, at a quiet cafe. Wooden chairs creaked. Sunlight striped the table. I slid a cheap binder across to her, printed receipts and screenshots. She flipped page after page. Her face stayed calm until the totals. Then she inhaled slowly. "You've been a safety net, not a daughter," she said softly. "Time to cut the net." "Walk me through it," I said. And she did, step by step. How to revoke autopay, transfer accounts, protect myself legally. Nothing dramatic, just clean and simple. On the way home, I opened my banking app and moved through the checklist like stepping stones across a river. Revoke mortgage autopay. Remove my card from the electric company. Port the phone plan to a prepaid account in my name only. The bills that weren't mine slid back to where they belonged. By Sunday night, Dylan posted a story. Table loaded with leftovers. Real loyalty isn't about money. Clapping hand comments stacked up. I muted him. My screen went quiet for the first time in years. Monday afternoon in the hardware store, I heard Uncle Ray in the next aisle. "We've got her in line now, she'll come around." I kept walking, bought light bulbs, tucked the receipt into my pocket like a small promise to myself. That evening, Mom left a voicemail that started calm and turned cold. "Since you won't apologize, skip Christmas too. And don't embarrass us with your loan spreadsheets." I listened twice, deleted it, and sat in my quiet apartment, realizing their silence didn't scare me anymore. 2 days later, the frantic call came. Mom's voice cracked. "The mortgage didn't clear," she said, like the world had tilted. I felt something settle inside me, like a stone dropping to the bottom of a lake. "I'll come by," I told her, "and I'll bring the binder." The kitchen smelled like old coffee when I walked in. Half-open blinds cast slashes of light across the table where Mom sat with her hands folded tight, knuckles pale. Dad eased into a chair, his face gray around the mouth, like he hadn't slept. I set the binder between us. The cheap plastic cover looked out of place on the wooden table where we'd eaten thousands of meals. "This is private," I said, glancing down the hall. "No audience." Dad rubbed his forehead. "We thought Dylan was helping," he whispered, almost apologetic. I slid the binder toward them and turned the pages their way. "He told you that because I was paying," I said. "Here are the transfers. Every one from my account straight to your mortgage company." Mom's hands trembled as she flipped through grocery receipts, utilities, prescriptions, phone plan, internet, credit cards. 3 years of lines, 3 years of me. "You banned me from Thanksgiving until I apologized," I said quietly. "So I stopped paying for the holiday you enjoyed without me." and I'm done funding the parts of me you're ashamed of. The front door opened and Dylan strolled in like he owned the place. He froze when he saw the binder. His smirk slipped. "You're really doing this?" he asked, voice sharp, as if my boundary were an attack. I slid a clear sleeve across the table, his texts highlighted in yellow. Dates. I'll Venmo Friday. Weeks turning into months. Money that never returned. He scanned, jaw working, words failing. "Call it betrayal if you want," I said, steady. "It's a boundary." Mom's lips parted, but nothing came. Dad stared at the totals, eyes wet. "We didn't know," he said again, like repeating it might make it true. "You didn't want to know," I corrected. It was easier to pretend Dylan was your success story and I was just difficult. Dylan snapped, "You can't just leave them like this." I laughed, soft, tired. "I'm leaving them like adults, which you also are." He looked away first. "I'm not asking for anything back," I added, tapping the binder once. "I'm just done. From now on, you handle your bills." I left notes on which accounts to call and how to set up autopay. "I'm not your bank." Silence pressed in. The fridge hummed. A car passed outside. Finally, Dad spoke. "What about Christmas?" The question sounded thin, fragile. "I'll see how I feel," I said, meaning it more than I'd ever allowed myself to mean anything with this family. I tucked the binder under my arm and walked out. The afternoon was bright, ugly, clean. Every step to my car felt like a door closing behind me. Driving home, I stopped at a red light. Fear rushed through me. What if they cut me off? What if nobody ever called again? The green arrow lit. I turned and realized I'd lived in fear of their silence for years. Maybe silence was exactly what I needed. By week's end, the family group chat flickered with awkward messages. "Who can help reorganize bills?" Then strings of emojis and no volunteers. Someone typed Dylan, and he replied with a single eye roll. Then the chat went dead. Aunt Patrice posted a quote about humility on Facebook, and for the first time in years, no one tagged me. Dylan's weekend photo dumps shrank. No more fancy dinners, just board games under dim lamps. Mom texted a casserole recipe like nothing had happened. I didn't reply. 2 days later, another message. "I didn't realize how much you did. We'll figure it out." I read it twice and set my phone down. At night, I made tea in my quiet kitchen and balanced my own budget. The numbers looked simple when they only belonged to me. Their voices still echoed. Dad's, "What about Christmas?" Dylan's, "You can't leave them like this." Then I remembered the binder, the porch plate of turkey, the way Mom typed "idiot" like I wasn't her daughter, and the echoes faded. One evening, my phone buzzed. Dylan. I didn't know. I'm sorry. I stood beneath a streetlight and read it twice. I didn't reply, not yet, because this wasn't about a single apology. It was about years of being invisible until my money appeared. A week later at the bakery, the same cashier looked up and actually smiled. "What can I get you?" "Everything bagel, toasted, cream cheese," I said, just like anyone ordering breakfast on a regular day. I stepped outside, bit into the warm bagel, and for the first time in a long time, it tasted like something simple that didn't owe me anything. That was the real showdown. Not at the kitchen table or in the binder, but in the quiet proof that I could walk away and still be whole. The weeks after felt strange, like entering a room that had always been loud and finding it finally quiet. For the first time, my paycheck was mine. I paid rent and car insurance, stocked my fridge, and still had enough to breathe. The absence of their requests felt like new air. Dad called one afternoon, voice softer than I'd ever heard. "We set up the autopay," he said. Then, after a pause, "I'm sorry for making you feel like a purse." The words were raw, unpracticed. They didn't fix everything, but they mattered. Mom tried in smaller ways. She invited me to dinner without conditions. No holidays, no obligations, just pasta at the kitchen table. She didn't apologize outright. She didn't need to. The hug at the door lasted a second longer than usual, and that silence said more than words. Dylan stayed quiet. Maybe his silence was the most honest thing he's ever given me. I kept the binder on my shelf, not as a threat, but as a reminder of what I survived and what I chose instead. I don't know what next Thanksgiving will look like. Maybe I'll be at the table. Maybe I'll travel and drink cocoa from a paper cup. What I do know is, I won't buy my seat with silence or money. For once, their silence didn't hurt me. It freed me. Family isn't measured by how much you pay to keep your place. Real love doesn't demand silence or sacrifice. It respects boundaries, even when they sting. I spent years believing my worth was tied to receipts and autopay. The truth is simpler. I'm not their bank. I'm their daughter. And I get to decide what that means. If this story hit close to home, tell me in the comments. Have you ever had to draw a line with family? Your voice matters here. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next story.